Earlier this week, a jury was sent to deliberate and find a verdict in the E. Jean Carroll rape and defamation case against former President Donald Trump. After less than 3 hours, they found in favor of Carroll. Nevertheless, Trump apologists and rape apologists alike have agreed upon their talking points, ignoring dozens of credible incidents, dismissing an untold amount of sexist and graphic comments Trump has said about women, and focusing instead on the so-called political witch hunt of a woman wanting justice for her violent assault. It goes thusly. Whenever someone accuses Trump of sexual misconduct, his apologists follow a yes-no flowchart. First they ask, what is her party registration? If she is a Democrat, then that's all they need to know, that's the talking point. Discredit her based on that. If she's a Republican, they move on to the next. Has she ever donated to a Democrat? If yes, that's the talking point. If no, move on to the next. What is her lawyer's party registration? This often includes multiple lawyers, and if any of them are Democrats, then that's the talking point. If none of them are, move on to the next. Was any fundraising conducted by Democrats? Meaning, are there any legal fees paid by a single Democrat? If yes, that's the talking point. If no, move on. Is the judge a Democrat? If yes, that's the talking point. If no, move on. The likelihood that nobody involved in the case has any ties whatsoever to one of the two major political parties in the United States is terribly small. Because of this, party affiliation is not evidence of bad faith in and of itself. The Carroll trial took place in New York, and Trump's lawyers keep trying to get his trials moved out of New York under the excuse that New York is a majority Democratic city and a Republican couldn't possibly get a fair trial there. It's desperation. Trump's apologists will cry that the district attorney is out to get him, but they will ignore that he was found liable of sexual abuse by a jury, not some chairman of a state Democratic Party or someone like that. Trump's sex crime accusations are not the product of Democrats or Republicans or the obnoxious team sport of party politics. Trump's sex crime accusations exist because of Trump's sex crimes. As a side note, I would like to tell any new viewers to this channel that I am not a Democrat or a liberal, and that any whataboutism related to Bill Clinton or Joe Biden will not have the gotcha effect that you are hoping for. More importantly, whataboutism does not alter the veracity of the initial accusation. It only deflects in a flailing, brainless attempt to change the subject. I'm not here to talk about Trump on behalf of his electoral opposition. I'm here to talk about Trump because I think he's an immoral, disgusting rapist, and more people should know the full story about what he has done over the course of his life. Trump's denigration of women began at a young age. In interviews and books, childhood friends recall that he referred to women as dogs and mocked them in public. Where does all of this come from? Why is Donald Trump the way that he is? Why does he behave this way toward women? This may be the result of how he was raised by his father, Fred Trump. Trump's classmates George White and Sandy McIntosh were quoted in a book called All the President's Women. How Donald Trump managed to meet so many lovely ladies while insulated in an all-boys school was a bit of a mystery to the other cadets. It was my assumption that Donald's father, Fred, brought the girls with him to visit Donald, White said. Where he got them from, I don't know. McIntosh had a similar take. Either Donald was the most seductive man in the world, or his father set up visits to make it look like he was, he told a French documentary crew. I don't know whether he actually knew them or not. In burnishing Trump's rakish reputation, Fred was making his son over in his own image. The elder Trump was so well known for his own extramarital activities on Florida's Gold Coast that he had earned the moniker the King of Miami Beach. By all accounts, Trump did not have much of a relationship with his mother. She existed to him as his father's wife, and not someone who could potentially teach young Donald that what his father told him about women was wrong. Trump learned from an early age that women were simply his, that he was entitled to them, that they were objects to be provided to him, no questions asked. By Trump's own admission, he lost his virginity at age 14, and since he had no serious high school girlfriend that has ever come forward, one may assume that this woman was provided to him by his father. Once Trump was no longer supplied an endless stream of women by his philandering father, he continued this behavior, but with women who could say no, and often did. However, any no, any protestation was ignored. Trump had no conception of a woman with agency of her own. There is no such thing as no to Donald Trump. But in his mind, it's not necessarily rape. Rape is something that other people do. Trump has invoked the word rape many times in his public life, when he called for the execution of the Central Park Five who were later exonerated, or when he spoke of immigrants coming from Mexico and raping American women. These falsely convicted and hypothetical rapists have something in common. To Trump, when other people rape, they are not allowed, but not because of any respect for women. They are not allowed because they are dirty people who threaten the purity of our nation. When he does it, however, he feels entitled. He's a rich white man who has been provided women since he was a child. His father raised him to be a sexual predator. As explained by Dr. Justin A. Frank in the book Trump on the Couch, Donald Trump is a sexist. There is no question that he lusts after women and places high value on their physical appearance. They exist for him as conquests that affirm his power and sexual prowess, or as beautiful sexual companions he uses to incite envy in other men. His sexism is his dehumanization of his women, turning them into functions the way he did his mother by calling her a perfect housewife, without describing any of her human qualities.
I have days where I think it's great, and then I have days where if I come home and, I don't want to sound too much like a chauvinist, but when I come home and dinner's not ready, I go through the roof, okay?
Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody.
The following is a list of credible accusations of sexual misconduct by Donald Trump, ranging from sexual harassment to rape. They are considered credible because of their proximity to Trump. In other words, if a random Twitter user tweeted, "Trump assaulted me," and could not provide information that could lead investigators to believe that they knew each other or were ever even in the same room, the claim might not be considered credible. However, nearly everyone who has accused Trump of sexual misconduct is someone in his orbit, a socialite who travels in the same fundraising circles, a member of the Mar-a-Lago Club, a contestant in a Trump-affiliated beauty pageant, or someone else whose accusation is believable due to Trump having access to her through proximity. Whatever one might think of these accusations, they are not random, and they cannot simply be dismissed, especially considering the enormity of the list. It should also be noted that many of these women are Republicans, so anyone saying that this is some Democratic psyop that has just lasted for decades, somehow, you're wrong. I'm sorry. You're going to have to take this seriously. I'll go in chronological order as best I can. Jessica Leeds is a businesswoman. On a business trip in either 1978 or 1979, Leeds was told by a stewardess that she had been promoted to first class. Her new seat was next to Donald Trump. According to Leeds, shortly after sitting down and speaking to him, Trump sexually assaulted her, putting his hands all over her, trying to pull himself on top of her, and reaching under her skirt. When she realized nobody was going to save her, she managed to get free of him, grabbed her purse, and ran back to her previous seat in coach. Sometime later, at a fundraising gala for the Humane Society of New York, Trump recognized her and shouted, "I remember you, you're that from the airplane." Donald Trump has been married 3 times. His second wife, Ivana, once wrote that Trump raped her in 1989. Since that time, Ivana made a public statement on the matter claiming that an incident occurred but that it should not be prosecuted because it was not criminal. Why did she say that the incident occurred but was not criminal? It's difficult to know with any certainty, but it's possible that Ivana said this because Trump's lawyers intimidated her and falsely told her that a husband cannot be criminally prosecuted for raping his wife. There is something tied to this possibility. When the topic was broached years later, this was nearly confirmed when infamous Trump lawyer Michael Cohen stated, "You're talking about the frontrunner for the GOP presidential candidate, as well as a private individual who has never raped anybody. And of course, understand that by the very definition, you can't rape your spouse, you cannot rape your spouse, and there's very clear case law." That is not true. The marital rape exemption law was struck down in New York in 1984, and the incident took place 5 years later in 1989. Cohen is practically admitting that the incident did take place, but he is incorrectly claiming that marital rape could not be considered criminal when it happened. Why else would he bring up the marital exemption law if it simply did not occur at all? Kristen Anderson was working as a model in the 1990s when she visited a popular Manhattan night spot that Donald Trump also frequented. According to Anderson, Trump found her on a couch where he slid his hands under her skirt and touched her through her underwear. Anderson now works as a photographer and shared her story with the press years later. Jill Harth is a businesswoman. According to Harth, in 1993, Trump sexually assaulted her in a bedroom at Mar-a-Lago. Harth filed a lawsuit against Trump, accusing him of attempted rape. Elizabeth Jean Carroll is a journalist, author, and advice columnist. According to Carroll, in late 1995 or early 1996, Trump bumped into Carroll outside of a clothing store. Trump recognized her due to her notoriety, and she recognized him as well. Trump asked if she could help him pick out some clothes for a woman he was seeing. Carroll has said that Trump then raped her in a dressing room. Let's take a break from the list and these horrifying descriptions to answer some questions that some people might be having. These questions, often from incredulous men, usually go like this. Why don't more women come forward? And why do some women wait so long to come forward? Look at how women are treated when they accuse a man of sexual assault. Look at how the media has gone after E. Jean Carroll. Look at how conservative pundits have gone after her. Look at what the Trump apologists have said about her. Their own vitriol is the answer to their question. They are searching for the perfect victim, an impossibility because they are also looking for any reason to discount her and make her an imperfect victim. Even if the entire incident had been recorded, audio and video, Trump's apologists would move their goalposts and say, fine, it happened, but it was consensual. There is no way to win over Trump's apologists because they generally share his worldview, especially his view of women. During a dinner party in 1996, Donald Trump allegedly looked up the skirts of several women to see whether or not they were wearing underwear. One woman, Lisa Boyne, has come forward. She was invited to the party because she and Trump shared a mutual friend. Kathy Heller was a member of the Mar-a-Lago Club, the now infamous site of Trump's Florida golf course. According to Heller's account, during a brunch in 1997, Trump grabbed her and forcefully tried to kiss her. She squirmed away, but Trump was undeterred, held onto her, and tried again. Heller managed to get away. In 1997, Trump walked into the dressing room of naked Miss Teen USA contestants. Maria Bellado, among others, have remarked that Trump saw them naked and brushed it off, saying, "Nothing I haven't seen before." I probably don't have to say allegedly here because Trump has defiantly stated that he has done this on purpose. He simply believes, like all sexual predators, that he is entitled to this.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
You're like
everything
a doctor.
is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible-looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
In 1997, at another event, Miss USA, Trump forcibly kissed Temple Taggart, Miss Utah. Also in 1997, Trump attended the U.S. Open and saw fashion model Amy Doris. According to Doris, Trump accosted her outside of a bathroom and forced himself on her, groping her, despite her pleas for him to stop. Doris told numerous friends at the time, who have all corroborated this story. Let's pause here because this is so much. You might be wondering, what does Trump say about this, about any of this? Trump always says the same thing, in only slight variation. It's always something like, I've never heard of this person, I've never seen this person before, who is this? But this usually defies belief because these women are contestants at his pageants, business acquaintances, people who are members of his club, and his wife. Trump is stricken with a sudden and highly focused form of amnesia every time he is accused of sexual assault. In fact, Trump does this with non-sexual crimes and unfavorable incidents as well. He never knows these people in photographs with him, these people who are tied to his business or his administration. He's hoping that this will be enough for people who are eager to believe him, but anyone who does a few seconds of research can determine that they have definitely met before. Okay, let's continue. We're almost out of the 90s now. In 1998, Corinna Virginia claims that Donald Trump groped her after a different U.S. Open. According to Virginia, when she resisted, Trump reportedly said, "Don't you know who I am?" Yeah, I think everyone knows who you really are, Donald. In the early 2000s, Trump hosted a New Year's Eve party at Mar-a-Lago. One guest, Karen Johnson, claims that Trump groped her at the party. According to Johnson, he grabbed her and pulled her behind a tapestry so that nobody would see. The incident is corroborated by documentation, photographs, and a friend who was told about it at the time. In 2000, at the Miss USA pageant, Trump once again invaded the dressing room and hoped to get away with it, according to Miss New Hampshire, Bridget Sullivan. In 2001, he did this again to Miss Arizona, Tasha Dixon. Alright, we need to pause again from the list, and we need to address what a bunch of Trump apologists are probably furiously typing right now. The reason why so many women came forward in 2016 is because they were afraid to come forward before, but once someone was brave enough to speak up, others felt safe enough to tell their stories. Donald Trump was, and still is, a powerful man. He also was, and still is, vindictive. Women are often shamed into silence or intimidated into silence. False accusations of crimes do exist, yes, but false sexual assault accusations are actually extremely rare. In fact, studies show that false accusations of sexual assault and rape are lower than other false accusations of other major crimes. Cherry-picking a few instances of false accusations does not disprove widespread, well-documented data on this subject. Also, there are simply too many credible victims to just dismiss this as some decades-long conspiracy against a humble and innocent man. Oh, and there's more. So many more. Let's continue and try to wrap this up. In 2003, Donald Trump allegedly groped Melinda McGillivray backstage at a Ray Charles concert. In 2005, People magazine sent one of their journalists, Natasha Stoynoff, to cover an event at Mar-a-Lago. According to Stoynoff, Trump forced his tongue down her throat. That same year, politician Rachel Cooks was allegedly sexually harassed and kissed by Trump. According to Juliette Huddy, a former Fox News host and current radio show host, Trump tried to kiss her in an elevator in either 2005 or 2006.
I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the you can do anything.
According to Nini Laksonen, Trump groped her backstage at The Late Show with David Letterman in 2006. Summer Zervers, a contestant on The Apprentice, was allegedly assaulted by Trump in a Beverly Hills hotel in 2007. Cassandra Searles, a 2013 Miss USA contestant, was allegedly repeatedly groped by Trump. According to Alva Johnson, Trump forcibly kissed her during a 2016 campaign stop. Johnson worked on his presidential campaign. So what now? Most of these incidents will go unpunished due to the statutes of limitations. Not all of them, though. Alva Johnson filed a lawsuit in 2019, but due to Trump being a sitting president at the time, it went nowhere. With Trump out of office and the precedent set by E. Jean Carroll, this might actually go somewhere. No matter what happens, there will always be a large contingent of Trump supporters who will defame his accusers. He is their great leader, and anyone speaking negatively about him must be a political operative instead of a victim. All those other charges against him, same thing. He never did anything, it's just a bunch of activist judges. Really? All of it? Every last thing? Can we just get real for a second? He did a lot of this stuff. Anyway, Trump's response to the verdict was his usual unhinged, all-caps madness. He is like an animal backed against the wall, still dangerous, but clearly cornered. What he does next, we will have to wait and see.